Are we live? Hey, are we live? Am I? Did I make it? Hi, everyone. It is Friday evening here in beautiful, kind of smoky, but also still beautiful Portland, Oregon. I hope you all are having a good Friday. We're not even going to aim for a great Friday. I want you all to have a decent, livable Friday. That's my goal. I feel like that's achievable. That's what we're going to aim for. So I hope that you all are doing well. Yeah, little Evie ASMR to start off the stream today, because the people liked that last time. But I hope you all are having a good one. Yes, definitely praise be to Our Lady and Savior, Rebecca Black. Listen, she was ahead of her time. She really was. Because that song came out when I was in high school, and oh my lord. Oh my lord. Oh, also oh my lord. Thank you so much, Chris, for the $20 to start off the stream tonight. That is very generous. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So just to lay some groundwork here before we get into things, also Bandita is like way off somewhere else, so she's not on camera currently, but she will be at a future moment, I'm sure. Obviously some things have happened this week that people have very strong feelings about. And generally speaking on these streams, if you've not been here before or you just haven't heard me say this for some reason, I don't talk about like politics in general. I don't like there's 10 bajillion other political streamers. If you want to go be in one of their chats and vent or talk about things politically with them, great, go do that. There's a bunch of them on Twitch, on YouTube. Go over there. I have no hard feelings if you want to do that with your Friday evening. But here, we like to have a little bit more of a relaxed space, not get into those controversial subjects. And while we talk about things like kink and BDSM here, and those do very much interact with politics, in terms of specifics here right now in this format with a live stream, we're not going to get into that. So please respect that here today. If you just want to vent about like, oh, I had a really crappy week, that's fine. Just, don't be specific with it would be my request for all of you. And just to get into the rest of the rules, just to make sure we are all on the same page with all of those things, this is an 18 plus only live stream. So if you are not at least 18, please do not be here. Also read the rules and FAQ down below. Obviously, we just talked about the political thing, but I also don't give advice on like physical health. If it gets into doctor or therapist territory, guess what? I'm going to tell you to go talk to a doctor or a therapist, because I'm not either one of those things. I am not, in fact, a random life coach on YouTube with 600 subscribers who will happily take $500 of your money to then tell you to do Jungian shadow work or whatever. There's like 5 people who will understand that reference, but I have limits to what I can give advice on, and I can't tell you about like whether or not a bruise is healthy or whatever. This is not my field of expertise. And in general, we want to be respectful here. We want to be polite both to me, other people in the chat, the moderators. Listen to the mods. They can and they will ban you if you are mean and naughty. Consensual bratting and teasing with a partner is fine, but here in my chat, gotta be respectful to everyone, including the mods, including myself. And other than that, main thing you need to know, this is an interactive BDSM and lifestyle, polyamory, etc. Q&A. So ask about whatever you want. I answer questions in the order they come in. So ask early. And just for the record, I will try to give people 15 to 20 minutes at the end to re-ask a question if I don't get to it. But the best way to make sure you get your question answered is to use a super chat. We had one from Chris earlier that did not have a question attached to it. But that is what a super chat looks like. You can get one of those. Or you can also go and use Streamlabs down below if you don't want to give money to Google for some reason. You can also use Streamlabs. It does the same thing. Will show up. It's cute. It's adorable. It's wonderful. And it'll also read it out for you via text-to-speech. If you have a little bit of a longer message, I think the minimum on Streamlabs for that is like $5, I want to say, if you care about such things. And that is really what y'all need to know. We also have YouTube memberships. If you would like to have access to the emotes in the chat, we have many cute, wonderful emotes here of myself and my adorable puppy. And the only way to make those accessible is to, for some reason, put them behind a membership. So if you want them, membership for 99 cents. And, you know, I consider that to be a good value for cute emotes, and it's literally the cheapest I can make it. So there you go. That's what you need to know. That is the 411, as not the kids say, but the old people say, for people who had the 411 as an actual thing. Okay, so with that being said, we will go ahead and get into some things. Wait, are life coaches just low-key findoms? You know what? I know enough pro-doms who have either started with or later in life gotten into some kind of psychology degree or some kind of clinical social worker program to where there might actually be a correlation there. Somewhat. But there are, I would consider it, you know, and probably the way that we're really talking about it here, what we are looking at people that are grifters, and like it's like the femme version of like alpha male dating coaches. Like, you know, you have dating coaches and they'll come along and be like, hey, if you pay me an undisclosed amount of money, I will solve your life for you and I'll tell you how to get all the women you want. And then you have a meeting, and then they tell you it's going to be $2,000 an hour. And then you go, oh, crap, well, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I guess I should pay that much. And then that's how they get you. Whereas life coaches, there's a couple of them I've seen on YouTube in particular. You get these people who don't have any credentials, don't have a degree, don't have any kind of anything, and then they'll call themselves a life coach, and then they'll charge a bajillion dollars an hour, like 5 times what an actual therapist would cost. Not covered by insurance, not able to be reimbursed whatsoever by any insurance. And they'll give you the advice a friend would give you. And are there life coaches that are good? Yes, there are also coaches out there that are well credentialed, that have a suitable background for this kind of work, and also don't charge an arm and a leg. Like, if somebody's a coach and they charge, like, let's say, $100 an hour or less, I feel like that's reasonable. Because, like, you're not paying off student loan debt, you're not paying for a license, you know, that makes sense to me. But it's like, when they don't tell you how much it is, and you have to get a meeting, it's like oh, God, just be wary of that. If any of you, for some reason, and I haven't heard anyone say anything about this, if there is a scammy BDSM life coach who's advertising somewhere. I haven't seen one. I know, for example, like Princess Kali does like Dom coaching sessions, but Princess Kali is a published author who is extremely well credentialed and is like a known person in the scene, versus like some random person who just happens to make a website with what's the one that always advertises on YouTube? Squarespace. A random Squarespace website. And yeah, just got to be cautious. There are many, many ways to get scammed under the guise of sexuality and BDSM. So keep your wits about you. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. If somebody demands a lot of money up front or blackmail, don't do it. If somebody wants you to wire transfer them something, don't do it. If somebody wants your social security number, don't do it. So many red flags. Every week I get some person who leaves me a message that's terrifying, and they're like, I got scammed and this and this and this, and they tell me like 6 different things that should have been red flags they did not pick up on whatsoever, and then they're like, and then I got scammed, which means pro-doms are bad. And it's like, I think we missed some things here. I think some things were missed if the end conclusion is that pro-doms are at fault and not that there were warning signs that could have been evaluated. You know what I mean? But anyways, that's my own little personal rant there. Yes, and good point. Yes, Chunk, if people want to receive giftable memberships, because people also do gift memberships in this chat occasionally as well, you need to go to your YouTube profile and you need to opt in to receiving gift memberships from channels that you watch the live streams of. That's very simple to do. You can go to, there's like, if you go to Google and then you type in YouTube turn on gift memberships, it'll be like the first result, because it's Google owns YouTube, so they're pretty good about making sure that their own help pages show up on the first 2 results or so of Google. So yeah, and also everything in the stream is public. So if you are using, for some reason, your full legal name in the YouTube chat, be aware that this live stream does stay up, and be cautious about things you may say or share in this chat. Yep. It's really annoying because this also makes subs that contact pro-doms worse since they all have terrible experiences in the past. So annoying. And I gotta be honest, I don't even actually know how much of it is that the individual people that are submissive actually are having terrible experiences with pro-doms, or they just use that as an excuse to be shitty to pro-doms. Does that make sense? Like, there's people who are like, oh, like, there's so many scammers. They haven't actually had an interaction like that yet because they're also kind of scamming pro-doms this time. So when they're coming out of pro-dom and they're like, well, there's so many fakes out there and I don't want my time to be wasted, so blah, 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 blah. And then they do the email back and forth thing where instead of like putting down a deposit and making a reservation, they just kind of expect you to do like light role play with them via email for like a couple weeks. There's like, I'm not sure what the chicken and the egg is there, but there seems to be a strong correlation between people who are time wasters and people who get scammed. And it's interesting. I don't know why they do that. Twixie is now a 1 month member of the first one, I think, to achieve the second little icon there. We have little Pomeranians. That one is wearing a little pink bow tie. I thought it was cute. Alrighty, so pro-dom stuff aside, although it's very much an interesting topic, we could definitely spend more time talking about red flags and avoiding scams if people want to get into that. But I'm gonna scroll back here a little bit and catch some of the earlier questions and obey my own rule about answering questions as they come in. Of course, we do end up going back and forth with topics, especially because questions oftentimes end up being related to each other, and then all of that ends up kind of leading us in a particular theme for the evening at some point a lot of the time. Yes, the smoke is clearing up. It was a lot better today. Yesterday, I could definitely smell it in the air. Like, it had that, like, kind of fall, slightly smoky scent to the air. Like, if you're in a place where there's a lot of, like, wood-burning stoves. Today, it was still really nice outside, but it was not nearly as smoky. I didn't have any issues today, which was really good. Well, I appreciate the feedback. I do not whisper in the mic too often because I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it is a fun little thing to do occasionally. Yes, and we have a marketplace of ideas in my Discord server if you feel like you want to vent amongst other kinky people. FetLife is like unbearable right now. Holy shit. If you want to vent about politics in a kink space, honestly, it might be better for you to go to FetLife because, well, I don't know. There's a lot of dickwads on FetLife. Like, people from like Europe and South Africa and Asia will just suddenly pop out of the woodwork to be like, stupid Americans, LOL. And it's like, you live in Italy. Why are you here? Like, it's so confusing. But, you know, you gotta have a place to vent. FetLife right now is just a hot piece of garbage. Which, to be fair, FetLife is often garbage. But in different ways. I was debating whether or not to get into more about why FetLife can be garbage. And I thought, no, let's not be too negative. Let's at least get to one question first before I ramble about something negative, shall we? You still reference washy-washy as an ironic joke. I love that I've helped you develop an in-joke like that. That's fantastic. I am thinking about ice pick lobotomy still. That's my main thing. I've almost said it like twice today out loud. That's going to be my new thing, apparently. That's my new brainworm is referencing ice pick lobotomies. Kenzie here with a very enthusiastic question. Hey, Evie, I'm trying to negotiate a scene with a rope top. Exciting. Love that. I love coconut rope. Yes, I feel you on that. I literally have a section on my FetLife profile where I specify that I love coconut rope, and then after that I put in, like, please, dear God, does anyone have coconut rope? No one ever has coconut rope. Because I am a coconut rope girly, and I feel like it is an underutilized tool for sadomasochism. Now, in terms of, do you have any fun or unique ideas with that? It depends on the quality of your coconut rope. Because I have played with coconut rope where, okay, just for everyone in the chat. All right, they're like, what the fuck, coconut rope? What the hell is this? I actually don't have any on me right now to give to you all as an example. But regular rope, right? Very smooth, closed fiber generally, like, it can be a little fuzzy, but it's all, you know, cohesive. It can be, especially jute, can be a little bit more on the scratchy side in the way that, like, hay is, you know, dry grass. But it's not necessarily super abrasive. It's not scrubby. Just has a little bit of a texture to it. But it all stays together and it flows smoothly. And, there's, rope is generally meant to be relatively smooth and easy to use. But coconut rope, which is made out of core, which is COIR, is varying in quality because it's generally made for like non-kink applications. I know one person who hand spins coconut rope that you can buy coconut rope from that is of higher quality. They used to make it Spectra reinforced, which actually made it a little bit stronger so you could use it for more things. But coconut rope, weaker rope, not meant for suspension, not made for anything load bearing, is very prickly, is very pokey, is very scratchy. I would probably, it's not, it's sort of like between, if I say cactus, I feel like that's too intense. Like it doesn't, well, I don't know. Maybe if you got real wild with it, anything can break the skin if you try hard enough. So don't test it. But if you were to compare it to anything, I would probably compare it to like somewhere between a soft cactus and sandpaper. It can be very abrasive. It can be very abrading on the skin, and a lot of people like that sensation. And I really like that sensation. I really am into like abrasive things. That's one of my favorite sensations to play with. But because it's not meant to be load bearing, you don't see it a ton in like kind of regular rope bondage scenes, and also because that shit tangles so fucking badly. Like a lot of coconut rope, especially the cheaper stuff, is sort of like one use only. Like if you attempt to do any kind of knots, pattern ties, any of the usual stuff you would typically do with rope, if you're maybe used to more tying in like a shibari style, even more like a traditional Western bondage style, it's going to tangle up. It's going to be a pain in the ass to take off. You're probably going to have to cut it off at some point because it's going to get so knotted together if it's lower quality. So like essentially you just have to like put it on the person and like be mean with it. Whereas if you do get higher quality coconut rope, which is harder to find these days, but it's still very much out there, you can reuse it. You can take it off more easily. It does not stick together quite as much, but because of that, you can't use it in like the same sort of unique ways that you would use, say, a standard piece of rope. But for coconut rope, these are some things that come in mind for me, right? So I normally, they'll use this as an example. So this is one of my favorite things to do just for like bondage in general, for any kind of rope bondage, but it works particularly well with coconut rope, is once you have the rope on the person, stick a chopstick, like a metal chopstick, not a wooden one that's going to snap in half, right? Like a metal cooking chopstick. And this is the skin, right? Okay, this is the rope that this is slid underneath. And then just, sorry, hit the microphone. This is really low. What the heck? Okay, let's get that. There we go. And then you just twist it around and you like use this to like ratchet down and like tie down the rope further. And so it'll really, really get into the skin. And you can either do that just so it's a very quick amount of additional pressure and then release, or you can actually do that all over. You can kind of tuck the ends of the chopstick in if you've got enough rope going on. And you can do that in multiple places and create this really, really intense sensation of pronounced pressure in certain areas as you go around the tie. And that can be really fun with abrasion and playing with coconut rope. Also with coconut rope, it's really fun if you just have some extra, like you can use it kind of like sandpaper, and you can like really quickly like sort of create like a rug burn type sensation if like the top. Also, tops benefit from wearing gloves. If you're not into prickly stuff, wear gloves, like leather gloves. Not like, I don't know how well latex or rubber gloves would hold up to the coconut rope. Like rubber kitchen gloves would probably be fine, but leather is usually what I've seen used. Holding on a coconut rope, rubbing it really, really fast back and forth like you're trying to create rug burn. That can also be a fun way to play with it. If it's rope that you don't mind throwing away afterwards, or it's going to be fluid bonded to you, you can do things if it's in your risk profile, because there could be chemicals and things in the rope, because it's not made for use on the intimate parts of the body. You could run it over the genitals. You could use it over the genitals. You could put it in the mouth. And that can also be a fun sensation to play with there. And outside of that, I think it's more about like sort of embracing what is the aspect of coconut rope that you really enjoy, and that, like, I guess I'm sort of assuming that you like coconut rope and you're looking to kind of elevate that particular experience. But for me, that's about kind of embracing the abrasion part of it. You can also add other things on top of the coconut rope to make that experience more intense. So, you could get like a spray bottle of isopropyl alcohol for like after you do the abrasion, spray that on top of it. I'm sorry / you're welcome. Why do you watch me? You know, like if you don't want the terrible ideas, why are you watching my channel? Why are you watching my videos? So that if you like the abrasion, you want to elevate that. You can certainly like use something like that. You can also do other things that can create surface irritation on the skin. So if you have any kind of like tiger balm, icy hot, etc., in addition to the abrasion, that can make that more intense. Or even just like sometimes breathing on it afterwards, or having some kind of like high contrast. Like maybe you go from like it being really warm to you put like ice cubes and like they blow on you and it makes it really cold, and then you layer some heat on top of that immediately afterwards, or vice versa. That can also be fun to play with. I also like doing things with coconut rope that kind of, because this is like my kink stuff, like personally, is like rough body play, massage, things like that, pressure points, really, really good to do. Yeah, pure evil. Well, you know, they asked, they wanted it, they asked for it, you know, that's what they all say. Put it in the mouth. Some of us more familiar with that than others. Indeed, that is very true. And you can also, if you're handy, if you like DIY stuff, quite a number of people will wrap canes or paddles in, not coconut rope usually, I haven't seen coconut rope, but with regular like jute rope or hemp rope, they'll wrap that around the paddle or around the cane. You can do that kind of on a temporary basis, or I've seen people like they'll like drill holes in wooden paddles, and then they'll do a knot on one end, they'll wrap it around the flat of the paddle, and then another little hole at the top end, and then knot it off there, and then you have sort of like handheld rope spanking device and or a really good tool for more, again, that sort of abrasion aspect of the coconut rope. Isopropyl is at the feed store by the gallon. Are you suggesting that we dunk someone in full-on isopropyl alcohol? Because that's what came to my mind. I don't think we should do that, though. That probably would be way too intense and, frankly, probably a waste. Oh, yeah, definitely. It's for stimming. Yep, exactly. I ask for your sadistic ideas. That is true. So hopefully I've given you some things to work with, but it's about sort of elevating that contrast, making that experience more intense. So temperature on top, either before or after, is really good, especially after, or doing things that will amplify the intensity of that abrasion through ratcheting it down, through rubbing it back and forth very quickly, and probably you could also incorporate additional abrasive sensations if you wanted to into that scene, but a lot of rope people kind of prefer rope just to be its own thing, so I don't know how much of an opportunity you have for that. Even doing something like, if you are going to incorporate other scene elements that are not just rope into your play, it might also be fun to do, like if you do like a warm-up spanking, get that blood flowing, get it to the surface of the skin, and then do the abrasion on top of it. That can also make it more intense, because you're having that blood flow on the surface of the skin, and it can definitely change the perception of the sensation because that blood flow is already going. It can also make it easier to handle. It sort of depends on the person. Like some people really like play when there's a warm-up ahead of time because it helps them sink into it, and they prefer that. Other people prefer more sort of the cold sudden shock of the play, if that makes sense. So yeah, those are some ideas for you. I'm sure other people in the chat will have other things that they want to add as well there. Does the jute paddle hurt more, or does it just rub for abrasion? So I never, I guess compared to what? I mean, it depends on the original paddle. Like, there's so many different levels of wood hardness, you know? Speaking of what other things you think it could possibly be implying, when you are looking at a wood paddle, not every wood paddle is the same, right? So if you have like Brazilian blackheart ebony, like way over here, right? Super, super dense, very, very tight grained wood, all the way over here to like, probably, I don't know, what, like black walnut, maybe, let's say. Like black walnut, maple, those are kind of the softer woods. I'm not actually sure. I think maple is actually softer than, I don't know. I'm not a woodworker, all right? This is just from the top of the dome, all right? I don't have the scale of Jenga hardness memorized, all right? But it's kind of the two opposite spectrums over here of like intensity of wood. for example, if you like really thuddy sensations, you're probably going to want something that's like a harder, denser wood versus a lighter one. And I would say a softer wood paddle, when you add rope to it, it's going to be more intense. But if you're dealing with a really, really hard, dense wood, like if you're doing something with like ebony, you're probably, rope might actually be more of a cushion for it and actually make it less intense. But I haven't played with specifically a jute paddle before, so that is relatively abrasive, like on the spectrum of different rope materials that you could use for a rope paddle. That would probably be one of the scratchier ones, but not the most scratchy that you could use. It can certainly, adding rope onto a paddle will make it thuddier. It will make it less stingy than the wood would be by itself, but whether or not that makes the paddle more intense depends on what kind of sensation you like and what you're trying to get out of the paddle. Because if what you're looking for is stinginess and you want a really, really stingy, really mean paddle, rope is actually going to make it less intense. But if you want a lot of thud and you prefer kind of deeper tissue sensation, adding rope's going to make it more intense. So that's just the subjectivity of pain is really what that all boils down to. I hope that answers that question. What would happen if we mixed the isopropyl and the lube? Probably nothing good. Probably, what would that? I need a chemistry YouTube channel to investigate that for me. I need them to get back to me on what the effects of that would be. Just whip out a little lamented card of wood hardness. I've thought about it, having a little handy guide, just to let people know. It's something that's like, it's an interest of mine, because I find it really interesting, like how much natural materials vary, but it's, I actually don't really like playing with wood paddles that much. I enjoy the look of them, the aesthetic of them, like really high quality, well-made wood paddles are beautiful, but I actually don't like the sensation. The only way I like wood paddles is the rounded, like the hairbrush style paddles used on the side. So instead of hitting with the flat, you hit with the side of it, and that produces a much thuddier sensation because I'm a thuddy bottom, and that's what I enjoy personally. And I think that's, if you've ever played with wood paddles and you're like, oh no, that's for me, I don't like them, try using them a little differently. Try, instead of doing the traditional flat hit, try hitting on the side. Maybe try a different shape. Maybe try leather instead of wood. Mix things up, basically. That's my advice. Sounds like the perfect thing to do with my old rope that I don't want to use anymore for bondage. That is a great point. Yeah, because you do need to replace rope eventually, especially if you're using it for something that's load bearing. It can get worn out, and eventually over time, because it is natural, it's going to lose some of its safety factor because of the fact it's going to get worn down because it's not literally made out of steel, right? So it's good to have something you can retire it into, you can repurpose it, you can reuse it, and not have to like chuck several hundred feet of rope in the garbage because it's gotten worn out on the bites, So yeah, that's a really good way. And also just to keep it as like a nice little memory memento of like, oh, this was, the rope that we used at this convention, or that, you tied me up, with on our anniversary and I made a paddle out of it. Like I think that's really sweet, actually. It's, I like upcycling. I think upcycling, especially for things like rope that can carry quite a bit of sentimental value for people. That's a nice way to use it. Chemist, isopropyl and lube is going to burn like hell. I mean, I figured that part. I could intuit, but I was thinking, I'm like, is the isopropyl strong enough to counteract the lubrication properties of the lubricant? And would it actually cause you to be more dried out? Even though it does have lubricant in it, would depend on the type of lube. That's where my brain went. Oh, yeah, hand sanitizer is a similar composition. Yeah, to lube is basically like using that for lube. Somebody's done it, all right? Somebody has used hand sanitizer as lubricant, and my God, I hope it was by mistake. Like, I was like, is that like a medical thing? Is it like a medical kink thing? Is that, because it would burn both of you, right? Like, unless the other person was penetrating using a dildo and it was on a dildo, then they wouldn't really feel it. But pretty much anybody else, like if you had a bio penis and you put hand sanitizer on it, well, I'm not going to say that's advisable, but it's your life. It's your genitalia. I can't stop you. You know, physically, I'm incapable of stopping you. Yeah, silicone does not like alcohol. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, is there like some kind of potential chemical reaction that can happen here? Like, is it gonna? Because what I would imagine could happen is if you're combining alcohol with lubricant, it might break the tension in the lubricant and essentially cause it to liquefy, and like it might not actually be lube anymore. But I haven't actually tried it to do that, so I'm, you know, I don't know. Oh yeah, capsaicin is good for that. Yeah, capsaicin, if you want to do something painful on your genitalia, just, you know, there's commercially available tingling lubes for this exact purpose. I would maybe not recommend using them, but if you want to enjoy them from a pain perspective or just see what they're like, go forth and try what is available at your local sex toy shop, you know, as long as it's a good quality one. My ex sub at some point had tried using, oh my God, hot sauce to masturbate with. Don't know where he got that idea from. All I can think of is the SpongeBob meme with the getting the drop of hot sauce on the tongue. It's really, really hot. Wow. I feel like that's a really good way to get a UTI. See, the problem is when you're getting into food products, then you're getting into, yes, it could be painful, but have we considered getting a UTI? Because you can get UTIs as somebody with a penis. It's typically more difficult than if you have a vagina or a urethra that's not attached to a penis, but it's still possible. And in that case, you maybe actually want to take it more seriously, because then they don't know what to do. They don't have all the fancy treatments for UTIs. They just go, it's burning every time I pee and I don't know why. And I have to pee 80,000 times a day. And then they just ignore it. And then suddenly have a kidney infection. Don't ignore it. General rule of thumb. If you're bleeding when you pee, if it burns when you pee, if you did anything weird involving your genitals in the preceding 2 weeks, go to the doctor. All right. Even if you didn't do anything weird, still go to the doctor if it's got weird stuff happening. Trust me, you don't want a kidney infection. You don't want to have to deal with all that business. It's really not a fun time. Just go to the fucking doctor. Okay? That's my advice. Icy hot would not be a good lube. You can use it externally on genitalia. That is a thing you can use, but not for lubrication purposes. I don't think it would actually, could you use it on your penis and then do penetration? Sure, but it would not actually, the lube part would not actually, I mean, I guess I don't use icy hot enough. Maybe there's a formula that's more of like a gel that maybe would work for that a little bit, like in like a water-based gel lube, but just, again, why? Why just buy something purpose-made for this, you know? Yeah, Tiger Balm. Yes, exactly. I got that by reading the ingredients, not by doing it in any meaningful way. Isopropyl is a very powerful desiccant, so it'll pull water out of almost anything, even in small amounts. Since isopropyl is poisonous, you really want to keep it out of your highly vascular tissue, since it'll work by tearing up cell membranes and exchanging itself for water in your system. That is a great point. Yeah. It seems like a bad idea. But again, if your genitalia, if you're like, you know, my girlfriend really wants me to spray her labia with isopropyl alcohol to see what it feels like after a scene, after we did some genital needle play or whatever. It's your risk profile, it's your life. Don't, I don't know. Don't get a funnel. Don't get a funnel and funnel it into your vaginal canal. How about that? Can we agree on that as a baseline? Is that acceptable? Oh my God, how have we been talking about alcohol in people's genital parts for 20 minutes? Oh my God. Yeah, the kidney, the route that your kidneys take does kind of look like the fallopian tubes. That's true. Bodies they don't like redesigning things, like copy and pasting, for the most part. Yeah, just go get checked out. Yep. You can also have UTIs without having sex, and they can catch that. Yep. A lot of people have it happen, and there's a lot of shame and stigma around it because, oh, they're going to think I had sex, and they don't care. And if they do care, go to a different doctor. So that's my advice. Okay. So I don't know how the fuck we got here. Let's put a pin in talking about spraying people's genitals with isopropyl alcohol, shall we? Celebrating 1 year in my current DS relationship this weekend. Ooh, congratulations. Thanks for all the helpful info and tips that have given me the tools to grow it even more. You are so welcome, Rose. Thank you for sharing. That is a very precious, important milestone. And I wish you many more years of happy DS relating. Thank you for letting me know what's going on. I finally pegged. What the lady last night reminds me of, I had an English teacher in high school who went to India once and made it everyone else's problem. Oh no, she did the Beatles. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, she did George Harrison. I think that was the one who went to India first. I don't remember. That is unfortunate. Yeah. Unfortunate. Many such cases. The live, laugh, love, or no, eat, pray, love, right? That's the one where she goes on the trip and goes to India, and I don't know. I've heard about it secondhand. I haven't actually seen it, but that's the impression I've gotten. There are definitely ways to make homemade lubricant. I would never buy any sort of yoni or lubricant product from like Etsy or anywhere. There are purpose-made, tested brands you can buy from boutique sex toy stores that work very well. And, you know, if you're doing a lot of things, coconut oil works really well for a lot of people. Not everyone. Some people are sensitive to coconut oil. Like, I don't really like using it for like vaginal penetration. I don't like it for that reason, but some people do. So there are definitely, if you're more sensitive to ingredients, there are options for that. But these days you can get a water-based lubricant that has like, 4 or 5 ingredients to it. It doesn't have to be anything wild and full of additives if you don't want it to be. But, going straight to making homemade lubricant is not necessarily the path I would pick, just because you probably do not have access to adequate preservation technology in your home kitchen to make that safe for any kind of long-term use at any point. You're probably not following aseptic technique and like wearing gloves and hairnets and like, properly stability testing your homemade lubricant. And if you're not doing that, I'm gonna have trouble recommending homemade lubricant that's not just like, coconut oil for, putting a butt plug in or something. Capsaicin HP is safer. Sorry, I'm having the chat on this is really small. I'm having trouble reading some of these longer things here. Oh, perfect. I just made that a little bit bigger. That is so much easier to read. Salicylate absorption through genitalia has killed several people. Oh, I didn't know that. Kubyemu, I do not know how to pronounce that. Cubbyemu. Oh, okay. Did a really detailed video on toxicology of it. Hey, okay, good to know. Good to know. Before anyone starts making crazy, weird homemade lube with salicylates in it. Whatever. I don't know if it's actually that's how it's pronounced, but all of that. Maybe do some research. How about before you put anything in your genitals, you research it first? Is that a good baseline? Can we agree to that? A boy rubbed 1 tube pain relief cream between his legs. Oh, a whole tube. This is what happened to his brains. Oh, it's that guy. It's that guy who makes the somebody reheated spaghetti. And then this is what happened to their stomach. Like it's one of those things. Wow, that is intense. All right, don't use a whole tube of pain relief cream. I do know people that will use some amount of, but not a whole tube. Don't use a whole tube. Don't eat a whole tub of ice cream in one sitting. Don't drink a whole bottle of vodka in one sitting. Don't, reasonableness, people. Reasonableness. Alrighty. Okay, let's, that's on a real video already, maybe. It's cheaper to buy lube than a new butthole. That is a great way of thinking about the cost-benefit ratio there. I have a pH balance lube and I love it. Exactly. Listen, they pH balance it, they stability test it. You don't have to worry about fucking mold from your kitchen getting into your lube. Just so much easier to let somebody else do the hard work. Okay, great. Moving on from that whole subject entirely. Icy Hot isn't nearly... Okay, sorry. I'm getting sucked in again just because I saw something about the emu. Chubby emu. I don't know why I couldn't parse that was the name. The capital letters help a lot, actually. Thank you. Chubby emu. What a name for that channel. What is the correlation there? Icy Hot isn't nearly as bad as strong capsaicin extracts. I've done a heavy, rough rope scene soaked in 6 meter. Not 6 meter, because it's not the rope length. 6 million Scoville units. I believe that's what that's abbreviating. Capsaicin extract. That is interesting. What happened to the rope after that? Did the top wear gloves? Were you the top? I don't know. The big risk is that it takes a long time to leave your system. A girl died using it every night for a week on her legs, too. It's also extra dangerous if you have heart issues or take blood thinners. Yeah, anything involving anything like that is gotta be cautious with stuff like that. That is a lot. Also, I don't know. I feel like people have told me that Scoville units are actually kind of garbage. I'm not sure how accurate that actually is. All right. I couldn't work out how memberships work. Turns out Google hasn't rolled out the feature. Oh, they haven't rolled out the feature to iOS. Oh, they maybe have some kind of they're probably negotiating with Apple, because Apple, and with the App Store, they always take a percentage. And if Apple's taking 30% and then Google's taking 30%, then listen, almost all the money is just going to other companies and not to the actual creator. So that is probably why I imagine why. So that is good to know. So for people who are on Apple devices, you might want to go on a desktop, use Google Chrome or Firefox or something, and that would be a way to get memberships. Yes, we will not be tolerating. Silliness is tolerated, meanness not tolerated. I associate 411 with Disney Channel. No one will understand what I mean by this. Oh wait, I do though. Wait, I do. Oh my god, wow, that is oh my god. Isn't that from I don't know what those are called. The bumpers between either commercial breaks and a TV show, or between episodes of a show, there'd be a bumper, and there was a little bit that was like a brother and sister or something that did there was something with the now you know, the 411. Oh my god, I totally remember this. This is truly a only 90 kids remember moment. Yes, Disney 411. Yes, I remember this now. It's all happening. There's a whole IMDb page for it with it for some reason. I don't know why. Yes, it was a bumper. Okay, great. I don't think that's actually the one I was thinking of exactly, but now that I've looked at the bits, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I totally remember this. What is going on with the Disney Channel? Is that still around? I have no idea. Wow, I haven't thought about that in a hot minute. I was thinking about one of my favorite movies growing up, which is Xenon. Xenon the Teenage Girl. Whatever. I was that's how I learned what Xenon was before I knew it was an element. Although I guess it's not spelled the same as the actual element, because it's not spelled with an X. Yeah. Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century. That was a great movie. Still holds up, I'm pretty sure. Haven't watched it, but I'm just convinced that it does. What are you doing over there, puppy? What are you doing? You stretching? You're so far. I can't come over there and pet you. You're too far away. Don't know what her problem is. Don't know what her problem is. Okay. Also, if you're going to be... Okay, there we go. Read that already. We're all gonna listen. My brain's rotted every day. You're not making it any worse. Don't worry about it. Oh no, the shit posting is fine. It just there's guardrails on the shit posting, but it's fine. We all have tendencies like that. Is there a way to ask a question in private? So if you do a Streamlabs chat, you can just pick what your name is. You can probably type in just anonymous. But I also do on my second Patreon, I'm probably going to stop using the second Patreon, just have it be a standalone feature on a booking website. But for now, it's on my second Patreon. You can book calls. And that's if you have like a more detailed question you want to have answered. I do half an hour-long slots. You can chat to me on there. It's eevlupine2 is the Patreon, and then you can sign up for a slot. It is towards the beginning of the month, so there probably is a slot open at this point if you wanted to get one, and that is the best way to ask a question. She is a little kiwi. She is a little teeny weeny little kiwi. I don't know if kiwis have a nutritious peel. I feel like they probably have some level of fiber, but I'm not a nutritionist. I don't know how I would determine that, but I feel like most skins have some level of nutrition, at least fiber-wise. And then some of them you don't want to eat the skin at all. So, listen, I don't want somebody to tell me there's a chubby emu video where they. I almost said chubby emo. That's probably a different channel. Chubby emu video where, this boy ate 25 kiwis in one sitting. Here's what happened to his fucking gallbladder. If that exists, I don't want to test it, I don't want anyone to test that theory. The acid from it can really cut up your mouth, though. Good question here from Angela. I have a question about dealing with different styles of polyamory. Is it doable, say, if one person leans more towards relationship anarchy or similar, and the other goes for more of a hierarchical polyamorous relationship? I think that can work, and this is the way that it would work. So if you're somebody and you like, I want hierarchical polyamory, I want a primary partner, and the person that I want to have be my primary partner is into relationship anarchy, that will probably not work because they will want to have other relationships that do not conform to like a primary, secondary, etc. framework. So that probably wouldn't work. But if you're somebody who is doing relationship anarchy, and then you got somebody over here who's doing hierarchical polyamory, and that hierarchical person has a primary partner, and they're looking for a secondary partner, and the RA person is maybe kind of more or less like polysaturated, so they have like a number of partners they have other obligations, and they're maybe looking for some kind of connection, but not a very committed one. I think that's a lot easier to meet because even if the relationship styles are different, the relationship needs are similar. Does that make sense? Because I think where this doesn't work is when there's a big disparity both between the needs and the styles, because the relationship anarchist who will probably want more freedom, will not want as many restrictions on who they can date, how they date them, the level of attachment they have with them, the shape that relationship ends up taking. Like, that's going to be very high conflict simply because the needs are so different. But when you're dealing with a lower level of commitment, energy expended, and especially for the hierarchical person, they're not like occupying that top slot that could go to somebody else. I think that can work for people. So I think that's probably the simplest way to think about those two things working out is just like, okay, maybe you both have other partners already that you're already committed to, that you've been with for a long time, and the only kind of room that you both have, either for hierarchy reasons or for RA, maybe more for time and availability reasons. We can each kind of only occupy these smaller spaces anyway. So potato. You say, it's RA, you're not putting a label on it. You say I'm a secondary partner, who cares? However, I would say, too, there can be some wiggle room if the respective preferences for each style is relatively weak. So there's a concept in the Polyamory Breakup book by Kathy Labriola where she talks about how people, not for like style of polyamory specifically in the book, but for like monogamy versus polyamory, how, like the Kinsey scale, right? There's, the gay to straight spectrum. Like similarly with polyamory, though that's not a perfect analogy, you do have people that have like, they're 100% polyamorous, they could never ever be monogamous. The idea of only dating one person would make them miserable, and they would want a nice picklobotomy. And then monogamy is the same thing, but on the opposite end of the spectrum, where they only could be ever with one person. They can't stand the idea of their partner even looking at anybody else sideways. Like, they just can't handle it at all. And there's a bunch of wiggle room in the middle, where instead of being like a 10 out of 10 polyamorous person, you might be more like a 6 or a 7. And then you have more wiggle room to meet up with maybe a monogamous person who's not like a 0, maybe who's more like a 3 or a 4. So you can kind of meet in that middle at 5 and both kind of relatively get your needs met. And I think similarly, this could also be true for relationship anarchy versus hierarchical polyamory. Like, if you're into the idea of hierarchical polyamory, not because you want like really, really strict structure and, you know, it has to be like only one primary partner and everyone else is automatically a secondary, and we're going to have all these rules, all these agreements, it's going to be very firm, we're basically going to make contracts for everyone. Like, if you're not doing that and you have hierarchical poly and you want that, but maybe your style is a little bit more loosey-goosey, maybe you do have some guidelines, but really it's more about like, you know, the labels we choose are more about reflecting the amount of time invested. I'm open to maybe there being multiple primary partners. You know, that I think is going to be more compatible with relationship anarchy, in the same way that I think, especially the way that a lot of people practice relationship anarchy versus maybe the a philosophical ideal of relationship anarchy. You have people that are like practicing RA that kind of functionally ends up being more like hierarchical polyamory, because if you're practicing RA, but you know, you're married and you have kids with one person and you only cohabitate with one person, can you really say you're not doing some level of hierarchy within that, because the person who is your co-parent that you're owning a home with and that you're spending, you know, 90% of your day with, even if you're not putting the label of primary on that, if they're taking the most out of your time, energy, and financial resources, it is kind of taking up a primary slot, even if you're reluctant to label it that way. So I think either from practice or for preference, if your practice or preference is relatively weak for either, I think you can also meet in the middle, just depending on what your needs are. But I would say it is very tricky. But it depends. Like, I've talked to so many people, and I've even been in relationships with people that say they're relationship anarchist, and then when you get down to the meat and potatoes of it and you're actually in the relationship with them, it is functionally the same as somebody who has like a weak preference for hierarchical polyamory that's like on the light side of the hierarchy side of the way of doing things. Like, there's very, very RA and very, very hierarchical, and then there's this wiggle room in the middle where like soft RA and soft hierarchical polyamory are like very similar. And the only technical difference is more with the mindset going into it, even if the practice of each ends up being relatively similar. In no small part because, like, anarchy as a way of thinking is, like, something you have to kind of learn how to do because our society isn't, like, based in an anarchist philosophy. So you're already kind of taking in a lot of non-anarchist ways of relating into those relationships that kind of creep in, even if you're trying to maybe more consciously live in a different way to begin with. Is soft CBT possible? Is it an oxymoron? It is possible. Anything is possible if you are very good at regulating the amount of pressure that you use and the devices that you are using. Like, I would say you could do like tickle torture on the genitals, and that would probably count as CBT. Because tickling can be torturous, but like that's not the same thing as somebody stepping on your ball sack with like stilettos, right? So there's a spectrum. It is possible. I don't do CBT, so I'm not an expert on what that would look like, but I do think it is possible. Loose casual dating, sexy friendships, work sexual contact, deep, intimate, but chaste friendships. It's pretty complicated though, and I definitely have very, 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 very spread out deeper relationships. Yeah, like the way that relationship anarchy can work and the way that different people, because I haven't even really talked about like what relationship anarchy is. You can certainly have many different ways of doing relationship anarchy, and like how you label things and what you prioritize. Like that could look like not prioritizing sexual relationships at all, or prioritizing friendships, or like a bunch of other things. It's very open-ended. It's very personalized. That's what I would say. It's very personalized. Is it, I'm skipping ahead, but this is, I think, a good one, so I want to answer this one. Is it normal to fall in love with your dom or sub? Can that affect the dynamic? So this is really interesting, because I think there's a big difference here between heterosexual, male submissive, female dominant, and male dominant, female submissive relationships on this one. For some reason, I feel like maybe because of porn or the prominence of pro-doming, it is more stigmatized in femdom relationships, sometimes by the male submissives themselves, for there to be romantic love in that relationship. And a lot of male submissives, actually, this is part of the reason why they go to pro-doms, they want there to be a big separation between, like, the woman you take home for your parents and the woman that goes with you to the company holiday party, because you don't want to be seen as less of a man, so you don't bring the aggressive dominant woman home that fills you up sexually. You take the nice wifey, and then you get your sexual needs met by the mean lady that you see on the weekends for like $500 an hour. So there is definitely more stigma there in heterosexual dynamics that are led by women being dominant around falling in love and being in love with your male submissive. Like, it does happen, but it is less common because in America, femdom relationships are mostly talked about in the context of either people that do professional work but have personal relationships with submissives, or people who only do pro-dom work. And of course, like, falling in love with the client is a different story than falling in love with somebody you have a romantic relationship with. Whereas I feel like in heterosexual dynamics with a female submissive and a male dominant partner, you end up with a lot of the background for that, instead of being like porn, which is sort of averse to sexual relationships in a lot of ways, you end up with the opposite issue, which is you have these Harlequin romance novels, erotica novels that, like, because they're in the romance genre, the concept of like a happy ending is implicit in sort of the romance genre. The idea is in the romance genre, you have either one book, or by the end of, like, let's say 3 books in a trilogy, the couple has to be like together, solid, they live happily ever after, they get married, they have kids, whatever, like some kind of payoff to the promise of that relationship. And pretty much all of those books have some kind of romantic component. And that could run the spectrum from kind of the, like, 50 Shades of Grey, One True Love, you're the love of my life, you're the one for me kind of shit. And then you have, sort of the dark romance genre, where the love is kind of skirting the line between, like, romantic love and like a Stockholm syndrome type thing, but there is love there, and there's most of the time a happy ending, because that's one of the conceits of that publishing in that genre. So you have that expectation of love, and then going into like there is, I would say, in my experience in the community, there is an expectation that if you're somebody submissive or somebody you're dominant, you are also dating or romantically connected in some way, unless it's stated otherwise. But yeah. I tend to see RA as you allow relationships to develop naturally without expectations and use labels purely descriptively and with mutual consent than as objectives or prescriptive relationship forms. That's something that I very much agree with, and that's, like, basically more or less like how I practice polyamory. I don't tend to I just don't label things. Like, I am, which is funny because, like, YouTube is my job, and I talk a lot about labels, I talk about specific things. I tend to, over the last, like, couple years, more and more move away from, specific labels for, my kink identity, for the way that I practice non-monogamy, for my sexual orientation, just because I find that leads to a lot of assumptions. And especially with RA, there tends to be a lot of assumptions about, like, I don't even know, like, I guess I wouldn't say I've met anyone on, like, a dating app that's said that they do RA that I, like, have had a positive experience with. Like, there's some negative assumptions I make with RA, and, like, people who do RA versus polyamory tend to make assumptions about what I want or what my relationship needs are based on that, and it's just, like, easier to say, like, I practice non-monogamy and sort of leave it at that. Yeah. So an EA, maybe you mean RA? I'm assuming that's a typo and you mean RA, because I don't know what EA stands for. It's the game company. RA person can get married if that relationship just develops that way naturally, and they were being married before taking on the label or using it as a goal, especially since our society. Yeah. I mean, like I understand, like, I'm not saying that, like, being married invalidates the being relationship anarchist, because I think here's what I think. I didn't say this specifically, but to say it. And I need to get back and kind of finish some thoughts on the falling in love with a dominant partner thing, because I realized there was a second part of that question I didn't get to. But on this note, I will say for relationship anarchy, I consider like relationship anarchy to be sort of like an ideal that you strive for, but I'm not sure anyone ever really achieves perfect relationship anarchy, simply because, again, of the society that we're raised in, those structural issues like marriage, like getting access to, health insurance, decision-making abilities, financially, things like that, the benefits that go along with having a non-anarchist based relationship. There are going to be structural differences there that make actually doing like full-on anarchy difficult in our society, even in a relationship context, if not in other ways. And I'm not saying that like you can't do relationship anarchy if you've been married. What I'm saying is that even if your ideal is to practice relationship anarchy, like whether or not you want to explicitly say that what you're doing involves a level of hierarchy or not, because like you're politically or morally averse to doing something with a hierarchy in it, if you are only cohabitating with one person that you are married to, that you have kids with, that you only do certain things with that person, and they have kind of special privileges and access to your life that other people do not have, and cannot have structurally, there is an amount of hierarchy that exists within that, that though you may not necessarily want that to be there, or you wish you could change it, or like maybe you're saying it doesn't emotionally mean anything, but like physically that still exists. Like if you're practicing relationship anarchy, but because you have kids with one person and you like live with that person, that means that all of your other partners can only see you for like 3 hours a day, like once a month, because that's like when you don't have kid obligations. Like there is an amount of hierarchy that is going into that, right? Just in terms of like availability, what you're prioritizing in your life, etc. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we need to further get into the weeds on that. Oh, you're responding to another person. Okay. It's hard for me. I only see part of the chat sometimes, so I'm not sure if that was like to me or somebody else, but I just want to be clear because this is a subject that I don't know how much my audience has been exposed to before, and it's always good to clarify stuff. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I do definitely more resonate with RA than I do with like hierarchical polyamory. But I've personally never been in, nor have I seen. The only time I've ever seen anything that I think has gotten close to like traditional, like the ideal of what, if you read a book about relationship anarchy, like what that book would say is like the way to practice it, is like essentially a bunch of like trans and queer people all living on a commune together, like the kind of thing where you have like a group of like, let's say 4 to 8 like trans and queer folk all like sharing a home together and kind of doing like an anarchist commune type situation that involves some varying levels of like dating and sex and intimate relationships between all those people in that group. Like the world's messiest roommate scenario. That's how I've seen it get kind of close to RA, but, in that case, there's not any sort of like, outside of the person who's maybe got their name on the lease, there's not as much of a practice of a structural differences between all those things. I definitely see a lot of people would use being a relationship anarchist as an excuse to engage in bad communication and crummy behavior. It's definitely open to developing that a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's like anything, people read the label and then they go, aha, I can use this. Like the same thing happens with like honest communication, right? Like if somebody's like, oh, I'm an honest communicator, like there's people who will definitely use that label as a way to be an asshole and be like, but I was just telling you the truth because I practice radical honesty. And like they read the first half and they didn't read the second half and they missed over all the shit that was about like, how to practice in an effective way that style of communication that is not just steamrolling over people because like you have to say your truth in the moment exactly as you think about it without any kind of concern for other people's emotional or mental well-being. You just described several large houses in Philly. I don't know why that seems. I don't like Phil. Maybe this is wrong. My impression of Philadelphia is that like surprising number of trans people in Philadelphia. Don't know why. Just seems like a place where that would be surprising more than you would think. More trans and queer folk in Philly than one might assume. Co-ops where about 20 queer people would get a 9-bedroom row home and just share everything. Yeah, there you go. sounds utterly... I cannot think of a scenario that I would want to be in less. That sounds like a nightmare. They would never be quiet. I would be miserable. I need to be in a cave by myself. That's what I need. But anyways, let me get back to answering the second part of that question with, can that affect the relationship if you fall in love with your dominant partner? So for me, and only for me, not for everyone else, I am a very romantically focused person in my BDSM in general, but especially my DS relationships. I could not fathom doing a DS relationship that did not have a romantic component to it. Very briefly, early on in my, like literally the first kink relationship I ever had, I had like a quasi-platonic relationship with somebody that was like my first trainer / dom that ended up kind of going in a more romantic direction than we originally intended. For the most part, my DS is very motivated by romance because, and this is very important, love will make you do disgusting, insane things for people. And I personally find romantic love, romantic connection, even if it hasn't gotten to the point of love yet, to be an extraordinarily potent motivator for doing the most insane things imaginable that you would not want any other random person to do to you. So, like, I can definitely enjoy, and I do enjoy, doing platonic play with people that I don't have a romantic connection with, but it doesn't get to the place of being absolutely fucking disgusting. Like... I hope I am emphasizing this appropriately. There is a point of like fun platonic nice pickup play, yay, with friends that I see a couple times a year and we have a fun time and it's fun and we laugh and it's silly and like that is also fulfilling for me in like a platonic friendship way. Like I enjoy that. But then there's like the utter filth of your soul that can only be revealed through a romantic connection, and that is a very special thing. So actually I think not ruining the DS. I actually think romantic relationships can be a motivator and an enhancer of a DS relationship if you are using it properly, based on the style of how I do BDSM and the way that I relate to kink, because I'm a very romantic, touchy-feely kind of person with my kink. However, I do also know people that they... maybe because of the kind of role play they prefer, or maybe they have a big separation between their vanilla life and their kink life, maybe they're already married or something. They benefit and they want a relationship that is like emotionally, especially romantically limited. You can't have a deep emotional relationship with somebody you aren't romantically close to, obviously. But for a lot of people, like, because like feelings are difficult and they're squidgy, and like you might think you're only platonic and then whoopsie, romantic feelings happen. Like things happen that people don't intend to always have happen. You can have relationships that are non-romantic. They get to a very high level of DS if that works for your brain, if that's the style of DS that you want to have happen, if you benefit from having a big separation emotionally between your romantic connections and your DS connections. But it is far from universal, and it just depends on what works for you. And there is no hard and fast rule that says you either have to or you cannot have a romantic relationship with your DS partner. It's individual, it's variable. Same thing with anything, right? It's all optional, whether or not you have sex, whether or not you date, whether or not you're like vanilla life partners and also kink partners. All that's modular. All of that is based on your own individual wants and desires. It is not universal, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Well, Philadelphia needs to have a BDSM convention so I can go visit. Is there a BDSM convention anywhere in the greater Philadelphia region so I can come hang out and check out Philly? Philly is one of the most trans-friendly cities in the U.S. We've had an officially recognized and named district called the Gayborhood since the 70s. Oh yeah, love a good Gayborhood. Actually, don't know. I'm not sure if we have a specific name for ours, but I don't know. Our main bridge is named for Walt Whitman. Oh, there you go. It was always not named that because of outsiders not wanting it to be gay men's name on the bridge, but we did it anyways, and we called it Philadelphia. The way that I need there to be a BDSM convention in Philadelphia that is called Philadelphia. If I ever win the lottery, I don't even care, because we already have Kink Fest here in Portland. We don't need a second BDSM convention. I will get a second home in Philadelphia, and I will financially make a convention called Philadelphia happen. I will make that a thing. Petition to have every city mandate a gayborhood. Yeah, as long as it doesn't become literally a ghetto, like a ghettoized neighborhood, that would be fine. Don't quarantine the gay people there, but I think it's good to have a center of gay culture, if you will. Yes, yeah, there is always the unspoken cis white upper class privilege that oftentimes goes into accessing local gayborhoods like Cap Hill in Seattle. Very much that way. Like, yes, you and 4 friends could maybe share a shitty apartment in Capitol Hill, but you were probably better off going to a different neighborhood farther away if you wanted to actually afford being anywhere near there. Definitely very gentrified. Each city's gayborhood is elevated above the rest of the city like Mount Olympus. Yeah, because that's why the rainbow can touch it. That's where you just have that in the background. Oh, that sounds delightful. I hope that more people someone in the Philadelphia scene has to be using the name Philadelphia for an event, right? That just has to happen. If it's not happening, somebody make that happen. I need that desperately to be a thing. Okay, anyways, I think I answered the question about romantic relationships in some level of sufficiency, so I think we're going to move on to the next question here. I don't know anything about Chicago. I don't know why Chicago scares me. The airport scares me. I don't want to have to go through that airport again. I went to Chicago once, and I immediately went to a hotel that was, like, not even in Chicago. It was, like, weirdly far away from the airport. And I went, O'Hare is, like, stuck in, like, 1980. It is the oldest airport I've ever been in. It's utterly incomprehensible how old that airport is. I wanted to create that convention for a while. There's a lot of people here that would love that. Really, we're just kind of filthy all the time. Well, you know what? Embrace it. I don't really know how to get a whole ass convention started. That's outside my scope of expertise. But there are, there are East Coast. There's Test Fest, right? There's the Dark Odyssey events. But that Northeast region, you could certainly use more BDSM conventions. I'll say it. Also, Midwest could use, there's like Kinky College, there's a couple other conventions in that region, there's a Rope Craft in Chicago, that could also use more kink conventions. But they all happen the same weekend, so y'all gotta figure out a fucking schedule, alright? I can't double book myself for a convention, it's not happening. As long as it's not Easter or Halloween, or Christmas, obviously, that's not a holiday people usually host kink events on, but somewhere around there, just, make it happen. I'll be there. I used to be in a chat room where there were 2 homies named Gabriel, and one was gay, and one was straight. The joke was that he was straight Briel. That's not a thing that people say anymore, is it? That's a bygone era. So sad we had to give that up. Dungeons and Geekdoms, New Jersey. I've never heard of that before. What is that? Dungeons. I know about, what is that? Gen Con. I know about Gen Con. I don't know where that is, though. I've just heard about it. But I think that's also, like, I know that because I was friends with somebody who painted miniatures, and that's why they... Oh, yeah, it's in New Jersey. Dungeons and Geekdoms. Oh, but that's in March. See, I can't go to that because it's right before Kink Fest. I can't do two... Listen, when I go to a convention, I play hard, all right? Like, I go all out. I'm doing intense things the whole weekend. I'm doing classes the whole day. I'm volunteering. I'm teaching. I'm doing the fucking work, all right? I can't do kink conventions back to back. I have to have a buffer of at least, like, 3 weeks between conventions if I want my mind and body to heal properly. But I'll keep it in mind. It's not probably... I don't know if this doesn't look like it's... Oh, wait, they got a new website. Okay. Well, actually, let me check. 'Cause actually, wait a second. Kink Fest might be in April this year. It is in April. Actually, you know what? It is technically a month away. But I don't know if I want to go. I don't know if I want to go to New Jersey. I don't know if I want to go to New Jersey. But it's good to have. I'm glad I know about that. That was definitely not one that I knew. KinkyCon in New Hampshire I did know about. Yep, Gen Con is in Indianapolis, and it's huge. Okay, that's where it is. I was like, I thought it might be in that general ballpark, but I wasn't sure. I thought it might be Philly because we were just talking about that. I wasn't sure. CapCon, yep, I know that one. But the Gen is for Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, the original location. Ooh, Wisconsin, look what they took from you. It's Garenville out here. Oh God. Well, maybe I'll give it a skip. I'm seeing hot sauce used in ... videos. Cooking videos? Right. Okay. I too like watching cooking videos on YouTube. I watched one yesterday that was really funny. It was somebody, there was a chef who got Galaxy Gas cartridges and was following the AI recipes on the Galaxy Gas website to prove that you could use it for real culinary purposes. But it turns out because the AI wrote all of the recipes, no human being has ever made any of them before, and they're disgusting. Like, imagine, if you will, nitrous oxide fondue. Nitrous oxide fondue. Horrifying. Horrifying concept. Hilarious video. Horrifying concept. D&G is my first BDSM convention, so I don't know how it compares to others, but I loved it so much. It looks like this kind of reminds me of Frolicon, which is also like right in that same weekend. When is Frolicon? There's a lot of stuff in kind of that like mid-spring period. Oh, this one's actually farther out this year. This one's in May. I thought it used to be Easter weekend. Oh my God, they already have the hotel room for this year's Frolicon open? They already have pre-registration open? Frolicon, my God. They might be the most far in advance convention I've ever... It's November, and this event is in May. How much is it? Yeah, this is like 6 months out. All right, that's wild. I've always wanted to check out Frolicon, which is in the same hotel as South Atlanta. I always think, oh, I should apply to teach here, but I don't actually know how to do that. Maybe I should just message them and be like, I want to teach at your little convention. Because I have a partner that I think would really enjoy going to this, actually, if I could drag their butt out there. I used to know somebody who, like, worked with them. Johnny Illuminati. Okay, I gotta look up. All right, thanks for reminding me. I'm actually in the process of, like, applying to teach at a bunch of conventions right now, because for some reason, even though all of them are months apart from each other, they're all opening up like applications for presenters at the same time. But it's actually, I really like the photos for this. There's like two, there's like an elf lady with like a, holding somebody else with a sword. I enjoy that. Oh, there's like tabletop gaming. That sounds like cute. Okay, well, if you like this, you might check out Frolicon, because it's kind of got similar energy, I think. More for the anime, more like an anime convention, less like a tabletop RPG thing, but similar-ish, yeah. I haven't been to Wisconsin. I went through Minnesota once, and it was really nice. I liked it. I saw a bunch of turtles sitting on a log, and it seemed very peaceful. But I don't think I'd live there. It's too depressing. Yes, Beat Me in St. Louis. I've heard of that one. That's another one. That's kind of more Midwest, I guess. Is St. Louis Midwest? What region is St. Louis technically a part of? Because it's kind of like right there in the middle. The Midwest has fibs, the East Coast has massholes, but the South and the West Coast don't seem to have an equivalent. The West Coast equivalent are all the people from Southern California that moved to Idaho to get cheap property. That's our equivalent. The equivalent are the fucking Los Angeles, the Angelinos and the Orange County people that move up to like rural Oregon and Idaho to buy up cheap property because they're like so sick of the traffic in California, so they come up here and ruin all our shit and call things the five and, you know, cause problems. St. Louis is definitely in the Midwest. All I know is that last time I was in St. Louis, there were like back-to-back tornado watches and warnings for like 2 days, and I was in like a really high-rise hotel room, and I legitimately thought I was going to die. I was like, a tornado is going to hit my hotel room, and I'm going to fly out the window, and I'm going to perish instantly, and that didn't happen. But I'm a little scared. I'm too scared of tornadoes to go to St. Louis again. No, I'd live. I just wouldn't be in a high-rise hotel room. That's one of my things. I am scared of heights, and I need to be in a hotel room, ideally that is on the 4th floor or lower. I feel like the mountain region, it's its own separate thing. Montana's not like the Midwest, you know. That's like the inner mountain west, I guess. And then Great Plains. Yeah, I guess there's Great Plains and then there's Midwest, right? Because then there's the Great Lakes region, and then there's the Plains, and I don't know y'all's geopolitical situation over there. I don't want to get in on anything. I don't know if there's any debates about this classification process. I will let you all sort that out yourselves. I have heard that Milwaukee has a good music scene before. That Milwaukee actually, I think, has really, really high quality of living. Like, people really like Milwaukee. But, like, why the fuck would you go to Milwaukee? Unless you're from the region, no one's like, I should move to Milwaukee, you know? No one's thinking that. So it's a sleeper city. My brain is overloading from all its American geography. Listen, this is 10% history class, 10% geography, 80% me actual answering questions. I have, yes. I don't know like what it's like, but I saw people talking about it in FetLife, and I was confused because I was like, trauma, what are they talking about? But that overlaps with Dark Odyssey Surrender in San Jose, and like I can fly to San Jose for like $50. So I'm sorry, I'm gonna go to the event in San Jose, not the one in Ohio. But it sounds fun. Yeah, I don't know anything about trauma. I'm not from that region, so it's not something that I like know people that have been to it, but it seems fun. Do I like Arizona? I've never been to Arizona. Well, that's not true. I did go through the Four Corners, and I have technically driven through Arizona, but I've never stayed in Arizona. I've never visited Arizona. So I don't know. My general thoughts about the Southwest is I feel like nature is telling us that human beings are not meant to live there in the way that like American suburbia exists. I don't think that human beings are supposed to occupy the Southwest that way. I feel like we should respect nature. We should take everyone out of Arizona and New Mexico and like those places. Get them out of the 125 degree weather, shove them somewhere else in a different state, they'll be fine. And then leave that up to Mother Nature to do what she pleases with the rest of the states in that area, and then do some like solar panel farms. I feel like that's what we should do with Arizona. That's my opinion about Arizona. But I have heard there's really nice spas there. Really nice spas. I think people like golf. I don't really like golf. I've never been golfing. I think I had to golf once in PE in high school. I don't know. That's probably it. But I do like the idea of spas. I'd go for a spa. But no strong opinions otherwise. Just seems like nature doesn't want us to be there. That's my opinion. Oh yeah, Eau Claire. Yeah. That's I'm sure there's all kinds of jokes made about that. I've been to Wyoming. I've been to Wyoming a couple times, actually. Wyoming isn't a state, it's a national park with senators. That is accurate. No one ever is like, oh, I love Wyoming's my favorite place to live. Well, they do. It's because they work for the Forest Service. That's it. Or they like skiing. I like mountain sports. Oh yeah. If you're going to San Jose, the one in San Jose, Dark Odyssey is like, it's right next to the airport. You don't have to get a car. An Uber takes like 5 minutes, super easy. Don't need to get anything super fancy to get in. And also, it's like, I've never seen Dark Odyssey Surrender sell out. Like, I think they just keep selling tickets. The hotel room will sell out, but there's also like 3 hotels right around it. So at most, you're like a couple minutes away from the event itself, even if you can't get into the actual hotel the event is at. But DO is really good. It's one of my favorites. I am biased because I've been there before. Maybe if I could go to every BDSM convention ever and I tried all of them, I would find one that I liked better. But frankly, it's hard to beat DO. They're really, really well ran events. They know what they're doing over there. Hi, puppy. What are we doing? You okay? You're looking at me expectantly. I don't know what that means, dog. She's had a very exciting day today. We hung out we had a little co-working session with a friend that has some new baby chickens, and they're very cute, and she's very obsessed with them. She kept wanting to hang out with the chickens, but she cannot be trusted with the chickens. Do not trust her with chickens. Don't trust her with bunnies. Don't trust her with anything tiny and cute, because she may be fluffy, but she has the heart and soul of a dangerous predator. Look at that. Look at that maw. That is the maw of a dangerous alpha predator right there. Hi, sweetie. What are you doing? You may not like it, but this is what peak predator form looks like. Oh my goodness. Yeah, she's a little puppy. My little Bobby. What are you doing, Bobby? What you doing, Bobby? Why don't you lay down, Bobby? Exactly. Good. We lay down. She's like, she knows that she doesn't know what daylight savings time is. So she's like, 8:30, woman, it's time for dinner. And it's not. She hasn't caught on quite yet. She's still adjusting to the new schedule. She is indeed the warrior princess. She wants to go hang out with the chickens again. She's like, take me back to the chickens. I want to go hang out with the chimkins again. I will be nice to the chimkins. I will not chase them around in their little chimkin house. You can trust me. She cannot be trusted. Her little doggo brain shuts off. She's literally chased a deer before, like through the woods. I was visiting family that live out in the middle of nowhere in the woods, and they insisted, oh, she'll be fine. She has super great recall. You can trust her off leash. It'll be okay. And I was like, okay, fine. And I let her off leash. Lo and behold, mama deer comes through. Guess who takes off running? Luckily, she's old and not very fast and tiny. So she did not, in fact, catch up to Mama Deer jumping through the woods. But she had a couple minutes where her instinct brain completely took over, and then she did not know where she was. I was terrified. I was like, oh God, there she goes. Oh, yeah. I think, honestly, if she was around a rooster, she'd be more intimidated and would not be as bold. But these were like little, like baby, like silky chickens. So they were snack size. She thought I could take that. But yeah, not around a rooster. I think a rooster would probably freak her out. She'd respect those boundaries. All right. Moving on from chickens. Looking at the title for tonight and reminding me of my mom's immediate first question after I came out as polyamorous. Do you go to bondage parties? That sounds like a question that somebody would ask if they're worried about running into their child at a bondage party. I gotta be honest. But I like how she calls them bondage parties. That's kind of silly. Seems kind of old school. She is now waiting by the food bowl. He's like, woman, hurry it up. I want a schedule here. Is there something that is similar in attributes to coconut rope that is not made out of coconut? That is a great question, Plate. Boy, do I have an answer for you. Yes, there are several things. So there's coconut rope, right? Okay, attributes they were looking for the coconut rope. Spiky, prickly, abrasion, things like that. Raw jute rope, unconditioned jute rope, kind of similar. It's like a nicer version of coconut rope. I don't know how to pronounce this, but like palm or sisal rope, S-I-S-A-L. I think it's sisal. I've never heard anyone say it out loud before. I'm not sure if that's how you actually say it. I've never played with that before. It has similar attributes as coconut rope, but I'm not sure how sturdy it is. I'm not sure how easy it is to find. That is certainly an option. And then there's another one I was thinking of. There is actually, in terms of scratchiness, Twisted Monk. And there's a specific brand for this one, so I will link to this one. This is very spendy. This is like special occasion, maybe get it as like a little holiday gift for the rope person in your life kind of thing. But they have a new section of bespoke fiber rope. Ooh, they have a very pretty seasonal bamboo rope, actually. I have to save that for later. They have a wool rope. You kind of have to get samples of it if you want to check it out. And they have this comes in 3 different colors. And this is, I'll just read this. This is, it has a firm bristle surface, think like a fuzzy sweater. As the manufacturer says, this rope exudes warmth and softness, making it great for sensation play against the skin. So it's, it's like, how a wool sweater is itchy. This is similar. I have heard good things about this one, and I'm not looking into this extensively in terms of like how and why it's sustainable. I don't know if it might potentially be like offcast from other aspects of wool manufacturing. So it might actually be like an upcycled material, which would be really cool if that's the case. But it's a little bit spendy. If you want 30 feet of it, it's $60, which is very expensive. This would definitely be a fun accent in your play bag, but pretty much any other kind of spiky rope would probably serve you better. But just in case you are curious about that, I will link it in the chat. And that is their exotic rope. They also have some other fun, different sensation types of rope. Nothing else that's like super spiky like that. There is another one I remember. Yes, there's palm hemp is what I was thinking of. I'll go. That's from S&M. That is a UK based shop. It's changed ownership. That's another one of the rough ones there. That is a very long URL. Oh well. Is what it is. Yes, bamboo rope is very soft. Bamboo rope is very soft, very sensual. It's got a silky finish to it. I played with it before, not very regularly. Again, if you want a lot of it, it's spendy. It's like $55 for 30 feet. So people tend to use it more as like an accent piece or for if you really, really like that sensation. But the colors for this are just really pretty. They got like yellow, they got red. Really nice stuff. I might bookmark that for later. We'll see if that. It's so fucking expensive though. Like, I cannot justify to myself spending $55 on a single hank of rope. Like, that's just not... Like, just to give you a price comparison, let me look at where is just some regular rope. Like, where is... let's do just hemp. Let's just do hemp, all right? Let's do just good old-fashioned red rope. Actually, so the hemp's actually $44. It's actually a little spendier than I was expecting. I thought they were stocking jute rope now. Maybe they're not. Like here. Yeah, like the posh rope is like $35. That's a little bit less. Or like cotton. Cotton tends to be very cheap. Cotton's like $30 for 30 feet. $1 per foot. But there's a really pretty one. There's a sunset one that was like orange and purple that looked really cute. But yeah, it's God, I mean, we're already paying like so much money for rope. It's like really hard to spend even more. But Twisted Monk also tends to be on the pricier side, or like nylon's like also like $30. And Sisal, is it Sisal? Sisal. Sisal. Ah, okay. Now I know. Interesting. English is such a fascinating language, isn't it? Now that I have that open, I meant to look into that wool rope because I was interested, like, what is sustainable? What do they mean like that? Because I do like scratchy rope and I like having a variety of things available in my toolkit. So I might look into that. They also have a raw silk rope that looks really interesting. I don't know how that would compare to bamboo, but that is supposed to be, I think, very soft as well. But I've never played with that before, so I don't know. $55 is about 40 Taco Bell tacos. That is exactly how we need to be thinking about this. You could get a whole fiesta. You could cater a party with tacos for the price of getting one hank of 30 feet of rope. Mm-hmm. All right. I don't know about chainmail, but chains aren't rare. Yeah. The chain bondage is certainly a thing you will see as a separate note. Yeah, good lube can be expensive, but it's worth it. A good question here from Adello Peach. Hi, Evie. I'm very new to the kink world, and I feel like I'm starting to discover that maybe the sexual aspect isn't very exciting for me. Do DOMs exist who are interested in total power exchange without sexuality-based dynamics? So that is a great question. I am not someone who is primarily motivated by sex or the sexual aspect of BDSM. That just is how I am as a person. It's how I've always been. And I know a lot of people for whom that is also true, where on both sides of the slash, tops, bottoms, dom, subs, across the board, all different kinks, power exchange, bondage, the rest, who also are not interested in sex being a primary or even any level of involvement in that relationship. There are definitely doms who exist who are interested in total power exchange that don't necessarily want to have a sexual component to the relationship. However, it depends a little bit on who you are and the genders of people that you want to be involved with. I know way more female dominants that are interested in a no sexuality, no penetrative sex, no sex TP relationship that maybe is more service focused versus especially like cishet male doms. Like if you're looking for a cishet male dom who does not want to have a sexuality aspect to their play at all in a total power exchange relationship, especially a monogamous one, that will definitely exist somewhere. You could be spending an amount of time looking for that. Now, but it is a spectrum within that, right? Like there are some doms where like all of their kink is very sexual. Everything is nipple clamps, orgasm control, orgasm torture, deep throating training. Like everything is all about sex all the time for everything that they do. And other doms are like, yeah, you know, the play itself isn't sexual. Maybe there's like sex for aftercare, or maybe our vanilla relationship includes sex, but like we're also doing power exchange. There's variations within that in terms of how sexual it is. So that kind of, you know, depending on where your comfort level is, you may be able to find something that maybe works closer to what you're looking for. But it is out there. It does definitely exist, but it is going to be harder to find than an aspect, than a relationship that doesn't have the sexual aspect of it, especially for TPE specifically. Certainly you will find people who want to do some kind of power exchange that would be interested in doing it if they're getting their sexual needs met elsewhere. But with TPE, that's going to be a little bit more complicated. So it does exist, but it's really good that you know that about yourself. So then when you're looking for partnerships, be it on like, you know, FetLife ads, at play parties, on dating apps, maybe even if you're real bold, you just want to put it out there, you may have more luck with that because you already know what it is you're looking for and that's something that you want. Oh, that's exciting. Get to host Christmas again? That's fun. That's like, I feel like that's like the big honor. Being an adult child is when now it's your job to host Christmas, and people like it so much they want you to do it again. Yeah, that's interesting. I definitely, yes. But also I would say, because, and let me add this too, because you're really new to the kink world, I would maybe not even necessarily leap to the idea that you need to do this in a total power exchange dynamic. If you're looking for something for yourself, I would start with just exploring some level of power exchange without the sexual aspect connected to it, and then learn from there if you also want total power exchange. Because that's a whole other can of worms there. That can be really, really fun as a fantasy in the abstract, but actually practicing total power exchange, it's not even necessarily rare in itself to practice it, but I think the people who succeed the most in total power exchange are very specific types of people. And it's not necessarily the most common thing in the world to get into that right off the bat and have that just work, you know? Groupie Baby says she would like me to be done with things now. Okay. Scoville is subject to a certain amount of interpretation due to some people being sensitive or resistant to capsaicin. In a nutshell, your mileage may vary. The more you know. I threw it out. I was a sub and I made the rope. They kind of are, but it's relative. I see hot is about as hot as jalapeno. Capsaicin, HP, as hot as a Thai chili. It's pretty intense. Good to know. Good to know in case you ever decide I want to sacrifice a rope to batch it in a fucking hot sauce. Actually, I have a friend that might like playing with that. I might tell them about that later. They have a partner that's like really into spicy food, and they're gonna fucking hate me for giving them this idea, but also they know who I am. They know what I'm about. Listen, don't talk to me. Don't be my friend. Don't join my live streams. Do not interact with me if you don't want me to give you the worst fucking ideas you've ever heard in your entire life, all right? My brain is designed for this, all right? Like, there are people on this planet that are meant for things, all right? Hassan Piker, that man is built for streaming. That man is built for streaming on a level I've never seen happen before in another human being. Like, there are people who are just meant to be authors. There are people who are meant to be streamers. There are people who are meant to be YouTubers. And I am some of those things by chance and by that's how I can communicate. But my gift, the thing that I believe genuinely that I have a talent for, is not making YouTube videos. It's not being a content creator. My gift is figuring out how to apply doing fucked up things to people and giving people narrowly tailored ideas that mesh with their personality, their kinks, and their partnerships, and then coming up with ideas that everyone involved regrets having heard. It's my special talent. Yes. No politics, but I did have to mention that specific human being is it's meant for streaming in that narrow capacity, not anything else about them as a content creator, just that, like, they wake up, they gym, they stream for 9 fucking hours, and then they watch One Piece and they do it all again the next day. It's kind of crazy. Yes. Yes. And, you know, no, yeah, I guess the just no politics thing is not directed to me, but just also make sure that I'm upholding my own standards here for the chat. Oh, I answered the kiwi question already. Oh yeah, don't eat the skin of avocados. That's a fair point. We got a whole, okay. Interesting. Currently have a problem. This is from Ari. Currently have a problem where my new sub wants to be my only girlfriend / sub, but I'm poly, and I used to have another partner who was a dominant man, and me, and now my ex broke up, so I got interested in another sub, and now I have trouble because what the fuck do I do? I'm 100% poly, and this is kind of something she signed up for, but I also don't want to make her uncomfortable, obviously. Ooh, that is a tricky one. So okay, you have a new sub, wants to be your only partner, you're poly, you used to have a different partner, but then you broke up. So outside of this, I guess what I'm inferring from this is, is the another sub the same person who wants to be your exclusive partner? Or is that a different person? So here's what I think about this. Yes, this person who is monogamous, who knows they're monogamous, knows you're polyamorous, wants to be in a relationship with you despite that, and then is asking you on some level for exclusivity. They're allowed to ask for that. That's fine. You're also allowed to say no. That's all. What is your level of preference for polyamory? Could you be happy not being polyamorous? Are you okay being tied down to just this relationship and the things that go along with that for the sake of this relationship? And also, what does being your only girlfriend / submissive mean? Does that mean you can't play with other dominant people yourself? Does that mean you can't have pickup play? Does that mean you can't do group scenes together? Because I do know people that are in monogamous relationships in the kink scene that do play with other people. They do platonic one-off scenes with friends, or they do group play together, but they don't date anyone else. They don't have any other power exchange partners. They are exclusive emotionally and romantically, and even sexually they're still exclusive, but they maybe do a vlogging scene with a friend at a party every once in a while, that kind of level of stuff. And I think, for you, maybe it might be okay to be okay, I'm going to be emotionally exclusive. You will be the only submissive, but there's still going to be pickup play. We might do group scenes together if you're comfortable with that. There may be other ways for you to get those other needs met, because especially if you're a switch and you want to get both of those sides out there, I don't think that it's fair to you necessarily to expect such a high level of exclusivity to where you're not actually getting your needs met as a switch because you only have a partner who is strictly submissive and you cannot play with anyone else. And it really sucks, especially when the proposition is I pursue this relationship with the constraints that go along with it, or I'm single and we break up because I can't make this thing work. And it is very tricky. And I don't know this relationship. I don't know how strong your preference is. You're saying you're 100% poly, and they know that this is something they signed up for. This is what I would think about it. I've kind of given you the way that you can assess this for yourself. But if this was me, I am very polyamorous. I'm not going to break up with my other partners or stop, seeing my play partners or whatever just because I'm starting to see somebody who's monogamous. I am very, very clear up front that I am polyamorous. I don't even go on dates with people who are not already sure they're poly. I don't date people who it's their first time doing polyamory. I don't date people or play with people where they're not sure if they're polyamorous or not. I just cannot handle that in my life. That's not in my risk profile for my relationships to deal with that level of potential emotional needs and potential more difficult breakups because of that. And certainly I think it, maybe doesn't necessarily mean this, but I think there can be a level of not treating polyamorous relationships as being serious and equal, because there are people who will come along and say, well, but I just thought if I was really good enough, then you wouldn't have to do polyamory anymore because I'm so good, you don't have to have anyone else, which is not really how polyamory works. It's not really how it works. So I might set some, and this will probably be a difficult conversation, but if it was me and I'm 100% poly and I'm not going to stop being poly just because one person wants me to be monogamous, that's not on my value set, I'm not going to do that. I would say to them, hey, I really enjoy getting to play with you. I like spending time with you. You're a really fun, interesting person. As you know, when we started seeing each other, I am polyamorous. This is not something that is changeable about who I am. If I attempt to do monogamy, it will make me very unhappy. And even though I really like you, this is not something I can compromise on in this particular way. Or you might be able to say, I'm willing to do this and this, but not this, right? If there is any kind of wiggle room in the middle there, like I talked about, like, maybe doing platonic play or pickup play or something like that. And then if you open up that door, you do have to leave it open, and don't, like, there's a dangerous kind of track here that can go down where, because you're afraid of making the other person uncomfortable, you don't do things that you want to do for yourself, and then they're kind of dictating the whole relationship based on their needs, and your needs aren't part of the conversation at all. Like, your needs are equal to theirs, and being uncomfortable is okay. This is a thing that I need people to internalize, because I get it. We're all people pleasers here. We like making people comfortable. With polyamory, with kink, with these alternative relationships that involve different ways of relating, that we have to learn how to emotionally navigate. Discomfort is going to be part of that process. That does not mean that we are doing something wrong, as long as it's being talked about and pursued in a consensual way. Which involves having this conversation about, like, this is who I am, I can't change these things, or here's kind of the narrow ways that I might be able to compromise. I totally understand if you can't deal with that. You deserve, or maybe I wouldn't say deal with that, but, like, I totally understand that's not something that you'd ever be comfortable with. This is something I tried to communicate up front. So I hope you can understand if you decide that this is going to be too much for you. I completely respect that. Whatever goes along with that, friendship, other communication things that maybe you'd want to do. But I would be afraid in this scenario if I was talking to someone and they were kind of expecting me to go, they knew I was polyamorous. They were okay with that to a certain extent. Now they're asking for exclusivity. I would be afraid if I even attempted some kind of compromise that that's going to be temporary, and that sort of their discomfort is always going to take priority over getting my own needs met, even if they're being communicated about up front. I do these live streams every Friday at 6. So I do them once a week. And then on Patreon, I stream every week, although we are going to be changing the stream time soon to have it be earlier in the day, different day of the week. Update about that coming very soon. I'm actually probably going to post about that tomorrow on Patreon. But we stream on Mondays on Twitch, video game streams, and the Q&As are here on YouTube on Fridays. I might sign mono, but I'm really driving to poly unsaturated. That's kind of funny. I like that. Yeah. I don't know. Something about egg cracking. I don't know why that made me giggle. Sometimes we come close to realizations about ourselves and then we just fucking take an exit too early. We end up missing our exit. But hopefully that helps answer your question. I do want to say, I am really sorry that you're going through this, Ari. It's very difficult to navigate monopoly relationships, and if this person's uncomfortable and wants to be exclusive, there is some level of wiggle room for compromise, but this is one of the sad things about life. Like sometimes you're not going to be compatible with someone, and each of you deserve to have relationships where you feel respected, you're compatible in terms of your needs. And certainly in my life, I have spent a lot of time in relationships that didn't feed me, didn't satisfy me, because I thought it was like the best that I could get, or because I was being told by somebody that, like, they're externally telling me this relationship is really good. And I end up spending a lot of time on it, doing a lot of compromise, making myself really unhappy for like literally years. And then I get out of it. And then I find other relationships that are like very natural, very compatible. There's still conversations. There's still work that has to be done, but it's not a fucking slog every single fucking day. It's not painful every single day. And everyone deserves to have relationships that are not a painful mess to navigate. There will be times in relationships that can be painful, but the overall picture of the relationship should not be pain, suffering, navigating, like, constant uncomfortable feelings all of the time, every day. There should be relief in that. There should be a satisfying core to the relationship. And if you don't have that, there's constantly this discomfort all the time we're trying to mitigate. It's probably not the relationship for both of you, but that's really rough. And I hope you're able to come by next week. Maybe we can get some more details, some more updates about that conversation goes if you end up having it. We have 5 minutes left. Sorry, it took kind of a long time to answer that last one there, but I want to make sure I give people a warning here. I'm probably going to put Bendita on my lap because she's like freaking out. Hi, you. Would you like snoogles? Would that help Would that help with making the last 5 minutes of this tolerable? Will we survive? Will we survive, tiny dog? Come here. Will we survive starvation? Will we survive the starvation of the next 5 minutes? We're dying. We're miserable. It's so terrible. All right, 5 minutes, speed, lightning round. Put your questions in if I didn't get to it yet. Go, 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 go. We're going to have schnoogles. We're going to have little schnoogles. Can a poly group come and find me? I'm kind of a hermit these days. It will require folks to meet me halfway, by which you mean materializing in my living room. I don't know if we have that technology yet, but there certainly are a non-zero number of people that have internet or long-distance based polyamorous dynamics. So that maybe not holograms, but close to it. Close to it is possible. Yeah, we get the snoogles. We get the snoogles, yes. Very soft girl. Very soft puppy. She is always smiling. Alligator pairs. That is quite the term. Can you really honestly call yourself a relationship anarchist if you're participating in structures like marriage? I'm not so sure. Oh, that was probably the I think we already responded to that one. She is very, very sweet. Any tips on how to handle a dom-sub relationship that has gone vanilla? Ooh, I don't really have enough time to get into this last 5 minutes, but I will try. I had a period of depression, relatable, where my sub started taking more initiative, and now it's hard taking charge again. So I don't have a ton of time to get into this, so I will say right off the bat, there is a pair of books that is by, well, there's a couple. So they're all by the same people. It's by Raven Caldera and Joshua Tenpenny. I'll put their names in the chat. Raven Caldera and Joshua, there we go. Get settled in. Joshua Tenpenny. They have a couple of books. They have Building the Team, which is great for building a good DS relationship structure and how to get back into that. And they also have books both from the submissive and S-type side of the slash and the D-type side of the slash that are all about mental health. Mental health and making relationships that work based on mental health, things like depression, and how to build things that work. Quite a few of their books, even the ones that aren't focused on that, do talk about it. Like I think Power Circuits, which is their book about polyamory and BDSM, also talks about that to a certain extent, and I find those things to be really helpful. Depression and bipolar disorder are really big in both of the books that they talk about mental health in, so I'd probably read that. But, you know, having a relationship reset is something that most people have to go through in a long enough DS relationship because of work stuff, life stuff, marriage, kids, etc. Life stuff just happens. We need to have these periods where we're reevaluating the relationship. It's hard taking charge again. It might be, if you want to have like a hard reset point, I might look for like a contract renegotiation. Like have a weekend, have a day where you sit down and you make a new contract together, you come up with new structures together. And the reason why that works is it gives you a very clear starting point, almost like, you know, you bought the bike for your New Year's resolution to bike every day. Now you have to commit because now you're starting this new contract period. You start off maybe with like one or two new things that you're doing that make you really excited. And because you're doing these things that make you really excited, even if you're anxious about doing it, you're motivated to do it because, ooh, I get to try this fun new thing. Or I get to go back to doing this thing that's really fun for me before that I didn't necessarily have time for. There might be other things you can ask your submissive partner to do that might help you with feeling like you're the one who's in charge again, right? That might look like protocol around like kneeling, eye contact restrictions, clothing use, something that maybe visually and or physically indicates to you that like I'm the one in charge right now, and they're not, right? So maybe using like its pronouns, or having them speak in the third person, having them keep their eyes downcast, doing things for them in maybe a service capacity that reinforces again that you're the one who's in control, right? And that might help you kind of get more into that headspace. And then generally speaking, this is kind of the advice that I give to people when they're trying to make kind of a container for their scenes or for their relationship is to develop habits around things that will become associated with the activities that you want to engage in, right? So I'm a really big believer in like the power of memory and association. So things like smells, things like sounds, like I have like specific playlists I listen to, like before I do a scene or before I'm doing something DS related. I have specific scents that I wear before I go on a date or before I'm doing DS stuff or scene stuff or going to a party, that because I have created this container where like I know that whenever I put on this perfume, I'm about to go do fucked up shit to my body and or my brain. I get excited because of that. It puts me into my headspace to get ready to do that. Same thing with the music, same thing with the outfit, same things with, you know, them putting on, you know, it could be putting on like I'm getting, this is kind of more from the submissive perspective, but obviously for a dom or a top, you could do the same thing too, right? You could do like wearing a certain cologne, putting on a certain tie or a shirt or cufflinks or something, where eventually over time you build up that ritual of doing it over and over again. You associate that with having positive experiences in power exchange and kink. And then when you're putting those things on, when you're smelling those things, hearing those things, you have that mental cue of like, ooh, it's time for the exciting, fun thing that I really like. But that's my general advice, but that's a tough one. I think it's, you know, the main thing really is just committing yourself to getting back into it. You've been at the end of that diving board, you've been waiting to dive back in, and you're nervous because of how things went the first time around. And you just have to get through the motivation to get off the diving board and dive back in. Don't make a big commitment, right? Don't start out from like the 30-foot diving board, all right? Go from like, I don't know what the shorter one is, 5 foot, let's say, all right? I don't know how tall diving boards are. 30 feet might be impossible. I have no fucking idea. You know, start from the 5-foot diving board, all right? Start from a springboard on the edge of the pool, right? Do like one thing that you're really the most excited about. Then have a week go by, add on a different rule, add on a different protocol. Maybe have your partner write something for you. You know, have maybe them write a poem or a short story. Have them make something for you that's from their heart, where they are indicating to you that they're recommitting to being in that submissive role. If you're more auditory or more not even auditory, but like a reading person, where you like those kind of dedications, you like, you know, not just hearing things from your partner, but seeing those things written down as a commitment. I think that can also be a really powerful tool. But anyways, hopefully that gives you some tools to work with on that. It's a tough one. I'm trying to get to one more question here, and then we're going to wrap things up for tonight. But this has, once again, been a fantastic stream, you all. I am always so appreciative that you choose to spend some of your Friday evening hanging out with me and my little puppuccino here. And you guys asked really, really good questions, so I'm always happy to be here. Little Bobby, what are you doing? Hi! I felt that little tail wag. What's up, Bobby? Are we hungry? Are we hungry, little Bobby? What is your kink set? Now I have to say it because somebody asked. I always get this is going to be, I didn't realize this is something that like teenagers wore, all right, and I probably wouldn't have picked it, but it's like the exact kind of fragrance I really like, but it's Cheriosa 40. It's the Sol de Janeiro Cheriosa 40. That's my kink set, because it's got kind of like this deep, like, it's got like black plum in it, I think, which is like one of my favorite smells. It's like, I forget what the scent notes on it are, because it's kind of, I like a gourmand. I like sort of a musky fruity scent is what I like. But it's black amber, plum, and musk. And I feel like that's it. Like, it just works really well with my body chemistry. Only ever had positive reviews. And because I do a lot of primal play, scent is extraordinarily important. So I spend a lot of time trying a bunch of different fragrances, finding fragrances that work for me with my body chemistry, that I find are very compatible. And Cheriosa 40 just does it for me. It's the flight to weight ratio of a swallow. Do ask me physics questions. I don't know. I want to say 1 to 1. There we go. I don't know what the answer to that is. I wasn't prepared for physics. Oh no. I'm not an aerospace engineer. Don't ask me. Is that kind of the last question? I don't know. Lust by Lush. Interesting. Say that 5 times fast. Lust by Lust. That would take me 2 seconds to mess up saying. My evening is great. It's been a good time. Ooh, okay. This is actually a really good question to end on. Hi, Evie. How old is too old to enter the BDSM scene? And where is a good starting point for an older person? So the BDSM scene naturally tends to lean to middle age and older. Like the average age I see at most general kink events is going to be 45, 50 plus, which I know is not I'm not saying that's old, but they're not 18. They're not kids, or they're not fresh out of high school. Most people don't tend to get into BDSM until a little bit later on, either because of career reasons, financial reasons, raising kids, whatever, or just late in life, divorced, going on your second marriage, kink awakening type things. I wouldn't say that there is an age that's necessarily too old definitively, as long as you are physically healthy enough to engage in BDSM, as in your body's still capable of healing. You're not dealing with something like extreme clotting issues or heart failure issues, or you've had 4 strokes or something. I definitely have known people in the BDSM scene who are in their 70s. I don't personally know anyone who's in their 80s who does BDSM, but I do know people who are in their 60s and 70s who do kink. I've seen everywhere from the youngest person is 18 all the way up to 76, probably the oldest person I know that does kink. But I'm sure there's other people who are older that are still doing BDSM, but they don't tend to be as involved in the public scene because when they were younger, the public scene was not a thing. So it's just not part of their culture. It's not their way of doing things. My other scent, I actually have a separate winter scent that's it's got coffee in it. It's what is it? I have it in my but I was really excited about it because it has coffee notes to it. And I don't drink coffee, but I really like the smell. I don't think it's a Dior. I got it from Ulta. I wish I fucking remember what it was. I might go and grab it actually, just because it's annoying me that I don't remember. Might have to give back to me on that one. Oh, there it is. Dolce & Gabbana. Or Dolce. I don't know if I think it's Dolce actually. The only one by Dolce & Gabbana, which is a cute name. They're that's my winter scent. That's my winter scent for more, no more vanilla activities, but also date sometimes. But kink stuff is Cheerios of 40. I also there's a Guerlain perfume. It's Petit Robe Noir or something. That I found at there's a million versions of it, but I don't, I think it's, yeah, it's Petit Robe Noir. That used to be when I was younger. I haven't found that in a long time, so I don't remember if I like the scent profile of it or not. But that was something I wore for a long time. Anyways, I've never been asked about perfume before, so now we all know. But also, when you're in a kink space, it's worth it to be cautious with the level of fragrance that you're wearing. I don't wear strong fragrances if I'm going into a play space. If I'm playing in private, I will, if the person that I'm playing with is okay with that. But if I'm playing in public, I'll body spray, deodorant, I'll wear that. But I don't put on body spray or perfume when I'm going into a dungeon or going into a convention space, because I know, especially when you're in a room with 100 people who are all wearing really strong fragrances, that can be off-putting. It can cause issues for people, and I try to be respectful of that. But when I play in private, I do body spray. But there's ways to layer on the fragrance, that isn't just doing the Axe body spray thing, right? All right, my sweetie girl, it's time to say goodbye. Are we ready? You're yeah. Get off the stream. Feed me dinner. Take me outside. Take me outside. Love me. All right. What's up with your 1,000-yard stare there, tiny dog? All right, y'all. We are gonna go. Thank you all so much for being here on this beautiful Friday evening. Enjoy yourselves. We will be back next Friday with another stream if I did not get to your question. I also love hearing follow-up. So if you are you back again next week, let me know how things went. Tell me all about it. I love to hear. And I will talk to you all later. Bye. Yeah. I heard you, Pommy. I saw the little paw go up. All right. See you later, y'all. Bye.